What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of the Premier League Spur-Spective, which is the review show of Predict the Prem, where me and my brother go head-to-head in predicting Premier League outcomes. The scores on the doors at the moment are 286 to 305, and the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man, once you pick them, you cannot pick them for the rest of the season, and it's 5 points for a goal, 3 points for an assist. And let's get into the first game of the week, and it was Wolves against Crystal Palace. 2-0 to Wolves, which keeps their good run going. First loss for Crystal Palace under Roy Hodgson in his second term in charge. Sim went for 2-1 to Wolves, so he gets a point for this one. I went for 1-1, so I get a big fat 0. But I didn't see much of this game. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I was watching bits of it. It was a fairly tight game. Wolves did take the lead in the first half, and probably deservedly so. Who scored it? I'm trying to remember now who scored it in the first half. It was an own goal right at the beginning of the game. That was right. It was from a corner. It kind of bounced in over the line. And then it was kind of like both teams cancel each other out. The second half starts, and Palace, to be fair to them, were piling on a lot of the pressure. Olise and Eze were starting to get a lot of influence, and Eze especially forcing some really good saves out of Jose Sarr. However, they were coming from distance a lot of his shots. So they didn't really create too many clear-cut opportunities, but definitely were putting Wolves under pressure. And then Sam Johnson makes a really bad error in the stoppage time, gives away a penalty after miscontrolling the ball. That sealed the victory with a lovely Ruben Neves penalty. So Wolves will definitely feel like it was a professional performance. I don't think it was like anything like a great game. Palace will be a bit frustrated they didn't make the most of their second half domination, but they'll know that Olise and Eze was still causing them problems. So I think they'll be fine. They're in a good position in the league. It's a bad defeat, but in terms of Wolves, very crucial for their survival efforts, I think, because they're now up to 13th, 8 points clear of the drop. I think Palace and Wolves probably both now safe at this point.
Yeah, I thought Palace was safe probably before this game anyway, but I think Wolves definitely, it was a very big point for them, and I think they'll be all right.
You got to remember, Lopetegui, when he took over, Wolves were bottom and going nowhere, and so to be fair
to be fair, it was very tight. I mean, one win probably got them up to 14th, you know what I mean?
I can't remember what the table looked like at the moment at the time, but I just remember they were languishing at the bottom of the table, not being able to score a goal. So to have them safe, 5 games to go, fairly impressive.
Yeah. Let's move on to Aston Villa against Fulham. 1-0 to Aston Villa, and this was a game that I did watch, and it was 3-1 we went for both, so we only get a point each for this one. And I thought Villa, especially in the first half, were absolutely brilliant. Should have been more than 1-0 going in at half-time, to be honest. They were just all over them, to be honest, playing really nice stuff, passing football, getting in behind, number of chances, but they couldn't get more than that one goal. And I think second half Fulham did come back into it, and you know Unai Emery, what he likes to do is that he likes to take a lead at half time and then sit back on it and in the second half, and it looked like that's what they did.
Yeah, and to be fair, Fulham had one shot the whole game. One shot, which is pretty pitiful from them. It goes to show maybe where they're at the moment in the season. The season's over for them. I know they've won the previous 2 games, but they were pretty pitiful in this game. And I agree. I was watching a lot of the game in first half. It was the header for Mings was good reward for their efforts because they were well on top. But second half they did sort of drift. Fulham didn't really offer anything. They had that goal disallowed from VAR or when it was offside from Harrison Reed forcing an own goal for Mings. And if they would have scored that, the game might well have finished 1-1 because Villa kind of took their foot off the gas and it seemed as though they were just managing the game. But the goal didn't count, and it's a very, very good win for Villa because it just keeps them ticking over, and it shows even when they're not at their very best, even though they were good in the first half, even when they're not at their best, they can still get the victory against a very out-of-form Fulham team, and that really keeps them in that hunt for a top 6 finish at the moment. Same points as Spurs now after their draw. Spurs just a bit better in goal difference, and we have to go to Villa Park. So Villa would definitely be fancying themselves right now in this top 6 race. I think they'll believe top 4 is probably beyond them, but Europa League would be a very good achievement. There's also got to consider Unai Emery's record in Europa League and what an opportunity that could be for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he'll be licking his lips to take Villa into the Europa League next season, and you got to commend him for the job that he's done there. It's nothing short of sensational, seeing as before he came in here, Steven Gerrard, I mean, the form that he was on under with Aston Villa was absolutely shocking. He's come in such a short space of time and just turned it completely on its head. I mean, it's unbelievable the job he's done there, to be fair.
But their running is very difficult. They got Man United United away. They got Spurs at home, Liverpool away, Brighton at home. So will they be able to? I mean, they're on great
Big
form.
results this season already.
They are in great form, but will they be able to keep it up with Liverpool getting into form as well? It's question marks, but there's no reason why not with the form they're on.
Yeah. Let's move on to Leeds against Leicester, 1-1. Both of us went for draws, but none of us went for 1-1. I went for 2-2, you went for 3-3, but it was 1-1, so we both get a point here. Apparently, it was a really good game of football. You were watching this one, but I
was watching it, yeah. And it was quite open. I thought, to be fair, Leicester started really well and had a really great goal from Tielemans right beginning of the game, which was ruled out from VAR. Great finish on the edge of the box, but a dodgy offside call ruled it out. And then Leeds kind of took that impetus with the goal ruled out, and Sinisterra puts them 1-0 up. And all of a sudden, Leeds were the ones on top, and they were the better side. But then going to the second half, Leeds probably should have killed the game. They had a few chances to get the second goal, didn't take them. Leicester made a few changes, brought on Vardy, brought on Daka, and when they brought them both on, it completely revolutionised their front foot.
Yeah, they didn't they?
And they had lots of chances. Vardy equalised, and it looked like they were going to go on and win it. They were opening up Leeds every opportunity. Vardy then has a goal ruled out from VAR, and it seemed as though Leicester were going to go and win it. But then in stoppage time, Leeds were the ones having chances. Rocker had a brilliant header saved by the keeper. And then Bamford, what a miss by Patrick Bamford right in the 90th minute.
One of the worst misses I've ever seen.
Unbelievable.
Literally.
Back post, open goal.
Especially at this stage of a season against that opposition in that big of a game. Oh my God, he probably had a sleepless night that night.
And I have to say, Leeds as well, looking at their remaining fixtures, this is a game they definitely, I think, had to get 3 points in, because they've got some very tough fixtures. They go away to Bournemouth, then away to Man City, then home to Newcastle, away at West Ham, and end the season at home to Spurs. So it's very difficult to see where the points are coming from at the moment for Leeds. And if they're dropping points at home in a big relegation clash like that, and they're only 1 point above the drop zone, it's tough to see. And the news today that Sinisterra is out for the season, it's getting the pressure's piling on Leeds at the moment, and the way they're playing, it's going to be difficult for them to avoid the drop.
I think the writing's on the wall for them a little bit. I mean, not only because of that result, not only because of the games that they've got left remaining this season, but when you're looking at the past few games for all the relegation clubs, I mean, these lot are conceding 5, 6, getting battered more times than they're pulling out a result. So I got a feeling that the writing's on the wall for Leeds a little bit this season. And I think them, Southampton, and one more, in my opinion.
It's going to be difficult.
But let's move on. Let's talk about Nottingham Forest against Brighton. A mad result and a really good result for Nottingham Forest at the City Ground. 3-1 at the hands of Brighton. Sim went 2-0. I went 1-1. So neither of us get a point here. And Nottingham Forest, in this time of the season against a flying Brighton side, to win 3-1 is nothing short of sensational.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and consider they went 1-0 down as well, and they missed a penalty in that first half. You're thinking it's not going Forest's way in this game, but I think that little bit of luck just before the break, they get the own goal from Pascal Gross, goes in the back of the net, and I think they took that confidence into the second half and really put the pressure on Brighton, and maybe took advantage of the tired legs of Brighton, who made some changes in this game and also played obviously 120 minutes in the FA Cup semi-final on the weekend. And maybe Forest took advantage of that because they looked quite leggy in that second half. And you got to say, brilliant end to the game for Forest. Got 2 late goals, another penalty as well from Morgan Gibbs-White, and it's a massive win off the back of a run of games where it looked like they couldn't buy a win. 4-5 losses, I think, previous to that victory, and it looked as though they couldn't arrest that sliding form. But beating Brighton at home maybe will give that confidence that they can go into the rest of the season and reclaim that home form that they had for a large part of the season, where they looked quite formidable there. They went on a long unbeaten run at home, and that win will probably give them a lot of confidence because they were really struggling to see where they were getting points at the moment. So massive victory in Nottingham Forest. Takes them outside the relegation zone, but still extremely tight.
Yeah, next up, Chelsea against Brentford. 2-0 to Brentford at Stamford Bridge. Sim went 0-0. I went 1-0 to Brentford, so I get a point for this one. Sim gets 0 points. And it was a strange game, this one, because I felt like Chelsea were dominating for most parts of it. They were creating chances. They just couldn't find the back of the net, and Brentford just kept like sucker punching them with breaks down the other end of the pitch, really. But look, this just carries on a form that Chelsea, Frank Lampard, Graham Potter, I mean, no one can seem to get a tune out of this Chelsea team and provide consistent results.
Yeah, I didn't see a lot of the game, to be honest, but I was looking at the lineup, and when again you're home to Brentford, and you're literally only two attacking players on the pitch are Conor Gallagher and Raheem Sterling. You got all that talent on the bench, and there's no surprise. I think late in the game he brought on quite early in the second half. He brought on a lot on those attacking players, and that's when they started creating more of the chances and putting a lot of pressure. I think Brentford probably would be looking at that lineup and licking their lips and thinking, all we have to do is do what we usually do, is keep things tight, not concede many chances, because with that lineup they ain't going to open us up. So if we just keep things tight, there's going to be chances down the other end for us. We can pick our moments from set pieces or on the counter attack, and that's where they got their goals. And I think only really when Chelsea made the subs did they start to really hurt Brentford. Aubameyang had a couple of opportunities and it looked like they might get back in the game, but it was a bit too little too late at that point for them. And Brentford, brilliant win for them. But Chelsea, five losses now in a row under Frank Lampard. I think that's 19 games and 15, so I think it's 19 games, 16 losses in his as Frank Lampard as a manager. I mean, it's just absolutely horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
Did they ever go 5 games in a row losing like this in the Abramovich era? Probably never.
Can't remember ever them doing that.
Yeah, literally never since the start of the Abramovich era, and now already under Todd Bowley. I mean, it's a complete mess. Chelsea are in a complete mess, aren't they?
Honestly, I struggle to see where any points are coming from for them at this point. Where are they getting points from? It's going to be very difficult to see, and they got some really tough games coming up. And look, luckily for them, they are 10 points clear of the drop zone. They're 10 points clear of Leicester. But if they don't pick up another point and stay on 39, I mean, they could. I mean, last couple of games of the season, they could get dragged into it. Honestly,
I just think there's too many teams below them that need to make up the points. To be honest, I just think there's too many at this stage. If this was like a bit earlier on in the season, I think you might have had a point. But right now, at this stage, with that not many games to go, I just can't see it.
I think if they keep losing games, I mean, they could. I mean, once they drop to 14th, 15th, which might happen in a couple of weeks, who knows? Look, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they've just about got enough points at this point. But if they lose literally every game from now to the end of the season,
I think they'll still stay up.
I mean, they probably will, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but I think when you're looking at probably percentages, it's probably a very low percentage.
Of course, it's very low because they're 11th at the moment, but it's madness. Well, that's even still a possibility at this point of the season, and it's madness that we're talking about them losing every game. It's not even that impossible. They might lose every game.
Lewis was in here when we played them, and this was a month, 2 months ago now, and he was talking about just get to that 40 points, just get to that 40 points. They still haven't got there.
They haven't got there. They've literally got to 39 and lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's looking like a terrible appointment, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's move on. West Ham against Liverpool at the London Stadium. 2-1 to Liverpool on the day. Sim went for 4-2, so he gets a point. I went for 2-1 to Liverpool, so I get a big, fat 5-pointer for this one. And it looked as though maybe Liverpool did deserve the victory. West Ham did have openings and create things on the break on the other end. They did have a goal disallowed to go 2-1 up as well, which if that was allowed, that could have brought a different end to the game. But you got to give credit to Liverpool for plugging away and getting the 3 points.
They're starting to really click, and they were creating so many chances against this West Ham team. They were 1-0 down, but they were unlucky to be 1-0 down at the time. Jota had a couple of openings, and then Gakpo pretty much equalised instantly, which proved how in the game that they could pretty much hurt West Ham at any moment. West Ham again on the blood. They're always a break on the breakaway when they got players like Bowen, and he did threaten, but Liverpool did deservedly take the lead when they did through Joel Matip, and they could have had even more. Matip nearly scored just before that as well from another corner. Trent Alexander-Arnold is really excelling in this new midfield role that he's got, and that's 3 wins on the trot now for Liverpool, and they're at the moment really starting to click into gear, it seems. And it's probably too little too late for this season, definitely to get a Champions League spot, but maybe to get Europa League they could still do it. But in terms of with a view to next season, I think that stands them in good stead with Gakpo Nunes, Jota all firing, Salah getting back into form as well. I think Klopp will fancy that they could have a good season next season with those three players now acclimatised into the Premier League, and they all look sort of like really dangerous at the moment. They look like going to be a tough team to stop once they get that midfield sorted. I reckon they're going to be back to their best.
And another case in point, another thing to prove this ownership of Tottenham Hotspur by sticking by a manager that's done you so well in the past, and give him what he needs and he wants, and keep going. And they can turn it around, because good managers just don't turn into bad managers overnight, do they? And if you follow their vision, then you can get to where they want to be. And I think Liverpool, if they are smart with their signings this summer, I think they'll have a tilt at the title next season. Next up, Manchester City against Arsenal. 4-1 to Manchester City in the big title clash, right, against second, and Arsenal being top of the league, that is, and Man City being second. Sim went for 3-2 to Man City. I went for 3-1, so we both get 1 pointer in this one, although Haaland scores in the last minute to make it 4-1. But to be fair, I mean, it should have been more than 4-1 this game. I thought Man City made Arsenal look like absolute schoolboys in this game. It was men against boys for the most part of the game. And you're thinking about Arsenal, right? You're thinking about a title clash of this magnitude, where Arsenal have been on top of the league since the very first day of the season, really. They've been on top of this league right up until now, and they're still top of this league. And to go into that game and to look so bad, I don't think I've ever seen at this stage of the season a title clash look so one-sided before. And Arsenal were just dreadful, to be honest, and they just didn't turn up whatsoever.
It was annihilation. It was from Man City and Pep Guardiola. I think Guardiola tinkered with the formation and tinkered with the tactics, and I think it absolutely worked a treat. Arteta had absolutely no answer to it. It was essentially play through Arsenal, with Arsenal pressing. Just, if they're going to press high, just go long to Haaland. That's all you need to do, because he can deal with Gabriel, he can deal with holding, he can hold the ball up, and if they can get De Bruyne into play, all we have to do is go long, and it just worked an absolute treat. It was so simple, but so effective. Haaland and De Bruyne absolutely ripped Arsenal to shreds in this game. Arsenal came into this game thinking that they can play their usual way, throw caution to the wind, press really hard up the pitch, and maybe if they had Saliba, it might have worked better. But with Rob Holding at the back, and with Gabriel as well, who also wasn't great on the day, they just got annihilated and then completely out tactics by Pep Guardiola. And it was a lesson, really, for Arsenal in this game, and in such a big game as well. They barely had any serious chances. I think in terms of aggression, Man City's press was absolutely fantastic. They really were aggressive up against these young Arsenal players who kind of buckled under the pressure, to be honest.
You talk about these young Arsenal players, right? And yes, fine, they are young Arsenal players when you're looking at the likes of Saka and Martinelli and Ramsdale and all the players, and Odegaard, but the players that are not old is the players like Granit Xhaka, the players like Thomas Partey, who you really expected to stand up for the team that day. And Thomas Partey was terrible. He was absolutely terrible. And he's probably the player on that team with the most experience, right? And he went missing, completely missing.
I think the whole team went missing, to be fair. He was a massive culprit.
I'm talking about the players with the age and also the experience, and you expect them to being like on the forefront of it, don't you?
Yeah, they were lost. He was absolutely lost, Partey. Like for example, that third goal, he's like jogging back while De Bruyne is running for on goal. It's like he wasn't busting a gut almost. Odegaard, their captain as well, I thought he was sloppy on the day, couldn't really get involved in the game. And I think maybe it was a culmination of the bad form they've been on and the fact that City have been in absolutely amazing form, and maybe the pressure got to them a bit in this game, but they absolutely crumbled. And I think you've got to say at this point, it's going to take a mad effort for them to go win the title now, because 2 points ahead with 2 games in hand, is it?
Yeah.
I can't see Arsenal holding off City any longer. I think the title's look, I think Arsenal fans seem to have conceded the title at this point. It seemed
as though they conceded defeat before this game, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, Arsenal fans were coming into this so dejected, so uninspired, and with the season that they've had, It's unbelievable that they go into this game with that kind of mentality, to be honest.
I do wonder whether from now to the end of the season, if there's going to be a big slide from this Arsenal team. There might well. Like I remember when Spurs in that season, when we were going for the title, like when it actually had gone, like there was a big slide for the last few games. Like we seemed to really slide. I think we didn't win our last 4 games, and I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal, like after now the title, like especially once City overtake them, whether like, because City have just done amazing, just kept on winning. Whenever Arsenal got the win, they just kept on winning, put the pressure on. And now Arsenal dropping points, they've kept up the momentum. But if Arsenal had to be in that position to put the pressure on City, I don't know if they'll be up to it. We have to wait and see. But it seems as though that could be it for Arsenal's title challenge this season.
Where does this? Well, first of all, like 4-1 was a bit kind on Arsenal in this game, in my opinion. I thought Haaland should have had a hat-trick just in the first half alone, to be honest. But where does this rank for you in terms of the biggest bottle jobs in Premier League history in terms of title challenges?
I mean, factually, if you're talking literally factually bottle jobs, it's the biggest, because if they don't win the title from this position, they would have been at the top of the league for over 90% of the season and not won the league, which is the worst.
Might even finish like nearly 10 points behind.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But whether how far behind or not, like the not winning the league from that position is a big bottle job in my opinion, considering how long they've been top 4. So I think, especially it wasn't that long ago, they were 8 points clear with. And so like, even when they lost to City earlier on, and then they clawed that advantage back, like they were a lot of points clear for a long way of the season. So for me, I think and also the way they've bottled it as well. 2-0 up against Liverpool, you can kind of give them a pass for that. But 2-0 up against West Ham and drawing at home to Southampton as well, they had it in their hands. Like there's no excuses in those games not to have taken all 3 points. And I think it's just got to them. Either the arrogance or the pressure. Either way, it's got to them. And I think it's been a massive bottle job from Arsenal, for sure.
There's 2 ways you can look at this with Arsenal moving forward into next season. Obviously, either this will really hurt them and maybe they won't come back as strong, or they gather themselves together and this will make them stronger as a unit going forward to next season, as we saw maybe them bottling top 4 gave that to them for this season. Do you think that will give it to them again for next season? They'll come back stronger? Or do you think that maybe they might not be able to go again like they did this season?
I think they'll go again. I think they'll come back strong next season, but I don't think it's going to be like, because this season points are on course for over 90 points. I don't think they'll do that next season with Liverpool, I think, coming back strong. Maybe Man United being stronger as well next season. I'm not even putting
Chelsea.
I'm not putting Chelsea and Spurs. I don't think Poch will be straight away up there in my opinion. I think it'll take time. Spurs are a mess, so I'm not even putting them in the conversation. But just simply Liverpool and Man United, I think with those two coming back strong next season because they've given their projects a bit of time, I think that Arsenal are going to have a lot more competition next season, and I think it's going to be more of a battle for top 4 or top 3 than maybe back in the title race for the next season. But not to say, it's a bit like when Spurs were in a title race and then we had a drop off the next season, but we still finished 3rd. Like we were good. We still finished on like 80 points or something.
Yeah.
But we weren't quite as good as we were the season before. And I think that'll be similar for Arsenal. They'll still be good. They'll keep up good standards, in my opinion. But like they'll maybe reach they'll hit like late 70s, early 80s. But whether it'll be enough to sustain another title challenge will be a big question mark.
Yeah. But Man City, man, I mean,
what
a behemoth they are.
5 out of 6 titles if they win this one.
They're turning this league into a one-team league. I mean, we always prided the Premier League on not being that one-team league, even though Man United were kind of very dominant. But you always had teams coming to challenge them and also win titles off them. But with Man City now, you need to be near perfect to win a title off them. Literally. You need to be near perfect. And
it's madness.
When you're looking at these last 6 seasons with Man City to win it, you need mid-90s to win the league. When we were in that title race, we finished on 86 points, and that was considered a really good total at that time. Would have won it 4 out of the last 5-6 years. That just proves how good this Man City team are.
It's ridiculous. Liverpool didn't win the league on 97 points. They didn't win the league, which would have been laughable.
97.
Yeah, they didn't win the league. City finished on 98. It's absolutely crazy what Pep has done. And whatever, you can say all you want about all the money and stuff, which is all fair, like financial doping and everything. But Man United have spent similar amounts, in that time. Chelsea has spent similar amounts in that time. And they're nowhere near this level of dominance. I really think it's Pep that glues it all together. And it's an unbelievable achievement if they do win another league and win 5 out of 6. And the difference, I think, it is from maybe a Juve or PSG kind of season is that I do think the competition in the Premier League, there's other teams spending as much as City, and they can't keep up with them even with that spending. Whereas I think in PSG, no one touches PSG when it comes to that kind of money. It's a different situation. So I think it's more of an achievement for Man. I wouldn't say they're just turning in Premier League into Liga in that sense. They are in terms of dominance, but in terms of how easy it is for them to do it, I wouldn't say it's the same thing.
And it's they're literally just strolling towards a treble at the moment. I can't see anyone stopping them. They're just dispatching of everyone with such ease as well. I mean, look at this, yeah. They've just battered. Who did they batter? Bayern Munich. They just completely wiped the floor with Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. They've just taken apart their title rivals in Arsenal like they were a mid-table team. I mean, who could have stopped this team? Nobody. I
can't see anyone stopping. Madrid obviously have that aura in the Champions League, but if they get past them, which I do expect, even though Madrid still have that thing with the Champions League, they got one of the Milan teams in the final, I can't see them holding off City. It's then you got United in the FA Cup final. I mean, I guess United could take them in a one-off game, but still they'll be favourites in that game as well. And then the title seems to be in their hands now. It's going to take some stopping for them not to win this treble.
Yeah. Bet they gutted they haven't won the Carabao Cup this year. Could have been up for the quadruple this year. But look, let's move on. Let's talk about Everton against Newcastle. 4-1 to Newcastle, and they are just on some mad form at the moment. Look, they were really kicking on, and then they had that really bad loss to Aston Villa. But they responded to that with a 6-1 win against Spurs and now a 4-1 win at Goodison Park. Sim went 3-1. I went 2-1. But it was 4-1, so we both get a point there. But, I mean, what a performance from Newcastle. Poor from Everton once again. And that assist from Alexander Isak coming off of the bench was just sublime.
And he's been absolutely brilliant. He's been amazing since in the last few games. But even when he hasn't played, they can interchange their strikers and they're still scoring. I think Wilson came off the bench on Sunday, scored. Started yesterday, scored 2 goals. He started against West Ham a couple weeks ago in the midweek game, scored 2 goals. So he's also on firing form, but he's overshadowed by an unbelievable Isak, who's just in sensational form. And Isak's just doing everything. But even when a day where Wilson scores a banger, like a 25-yarder from outside the box, he's still overshadowed by an unbelievable assist from Isak. I kind of feel sorry for him. But it's weird. It's an interesting thing with Newcastle because they built their first half of the season on this foundation of a really solid defence, winning games 1-0 and just getting that right. But in the last year, it's almost as if since the cup final, something switched because they've only kept 1 clean sheet in their last, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last 8 games, they've kept 1 clean sheet, but they've absolutely been racking in the goals.
But wasn't in the first half of the season, Isak was injured a lot and also Callum Wilson was injured a lot. So they were kind of hampered a bit in the first half of the season.
Maybe that was it. But I, even when they were fit, it was still, I think they beat Fulham one game, I think 5-1 or something. But other than that, they didn't score loads of goals. But this
is what you associate Eddie Howe with, this kind of football,
100%.
Right?
And they're really starting to click. Going forward now, they're scoring buckets of goals. Beat United 2-0, 5-1 against West Ham, 6-1 against Spurs, 4-1 against Everton. They're really racking up the goals now. And Isak, Joel Linton as well is contributing a lot more in the final third. And they're just starting. They're now. I'm not saying they're less concerned about defending, but it's they're more interested at this point in just outscoring the opposition than they were early in the season. And just they're not as concentrated in we have to get a clean sheet, we have to beat this defensively solid team. They're now more interested in let's just get the best. Let's just coach this team, getting the best out of our attacking players, get Bruno dictating things and getting those star strikers in the positions. And they are absolutely clinical at the moment. They're a joy to watch, to be honest. Newcastle, you have to say that they're being absolutely brilliant. But so in terms of top 4 now, they're third.
I think it's done for Newcastle.
They're 8 points clear now of 5th, which is us. I can't see them. They've got really easy games. Their next game, Southampton at home, so that's another 3 points most likely for them. So top 4, seems almost like a foregone conclusion now.
Fair, we said that about Arsenal as well.
We did, but I think Newcastle were in good form going into that game. Arsenal
They did,
weren't.
but they did just recently get absolutely battered by Aston Villa.
They did.
So you never know what can happen in the Premier League, but yeah, it does seem like a foregone conclusion, to be honest.
I can't see them dropping out.
I think Newcastle are sealed in this top 4, to be honest.
But Everton down to 19th.
Yeah.
No wins in, I think, 6 games for them. Battered. When you're a Sean Dyche team and you're conceding, it doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're conceding 4 goals like that, that's alarm bells because he builds his team around a solid defense, and it's not as if and it's like they take their chances to go forward, and it's not they're going to be this mad attacking team. So when you're conceding 4 goals at home, even if it's against a good Newcastle team, that has to send massive alarm bells, because if you're that open and that bad defending, then you've got no chance as a Sean Dyche team. So that's got to be really concerning.
Yeah,
really
also,
concerning.
When the way you're looking at it, I mean, Leicester getting results now, Forest are getting results. Everton and Leeds are just kind of trudging along, really. But a big game this weekend, man. Leicester away for Everton.
Leicester away. I mean, their next couple of games, Leicester away, Brighton away, so 2 really tough away games, and then City at home, Wolves away, and Bournemouth at home. So
that's a massive game, last game of the season.
So those last 2 games, I mean, before then, like, if they get a win out of Leicester, Brighton, or City, I'll be surprised if they get a 1 win out of them. So it could go down to those last 2 games, but then it would be enough. Even if they get 6 points, it would be enough. So they're gonna in those next 3 games, they need a win somewhere. They absolutely need a win.
If Everton go down, it'll be the first time they've ever been relegated out of the top flight, and it'll be sad to see. To be honest,
sack Dyche if they go down.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to.
He's had enough time to
be
save
fair,
them.
though, like in the Championship,
who better would you want than Dyche?
I mean, Dyche would do a great job in the Championship with them. He'll probably bring them straight back up.
Yeah, it'll probably be worth just keeping him around, because he probably would take them up. But
it's not good enough, to be honest.
Because he had how long ago did he take the job? Was first half? No, they played Arsenal in January or something.
Yeah, it was just after the World Cup.
It was just after the World Cup. So that was over half the season they had to save them. And a team like Everton, you should be getting enough points.
It started off really well. It started off really well, but now these home performances are starting to slide.
Yeah, and when you're conceding all these goals, it's 3-1 at home to Fulham, 4-1 at home to Newcastle. Yeah. That's really bad.
The Fulham one was the big one for me, because they were just like losing every game. Fulham, it looked like they were on the beach already, and you're thinking, all right, Everton at home, Everton are going to get some points here in the relegation drop, and they got absolutely torn apart.
And I was watching Dyche's post-match interview. It wasn't so much what he said, it was just his body language. He just seemed nervous. He seemed like he wasn't confident, and that's got to be worrying.
Yeah. Let's move on. Southampton against Bournemouth, local derby down at the bottom. A massive clash this was. Finished 1-0 to Bournemouth. Both us going for Southampton wins. Sim went for 2-0, I went for 2-1. But you got to give credit to Gary O'Neill and Bournemouth for the way they're playing their football at the moment, the way they're getting their results. They did have a few blips in recent weeks. But to go away to Southampton in a crunch game like this, that takes some balls, to be honest. And Southampton, you're looking at the table now, and they look destined for the drop. Yeah,
6 points away from Forest now. I mean, it's still not impossible if they go on a run, but if you can't build... I know they conceded 2 late goals to Arsenal, but they surely had to look at that result and think of that's something to build on, rather than be down that you didn't get the win, as much as it would have hurt to concede those 2 goals. And I think that if they can't build on that result, that's definitely worrying times. If they can't build confidence out of that result at home to a side like Bournemouth, who, yes, a tough team to play against, but you got to fancy your chances at home in this kind of situation. To lose the game, not even get a draw as well, I think that might be fatal for Southampton. You got to worry for them. They couldn't really turn any momentum from the Arsenal game into any serious performance in this game. Bournemouth, on the other hand, they weren't brilliant, but they got the win. They probably were the better team. They probably deserved it. The goal they scored was a bit scruffy, but ended up in the back of the net from Tavernier. Got the goal, was solid defensively, and now they're 7 points clear of the drop with 5 games to go. So they'll probably feel like one more win should be enough for them. But at this point, they're looking pretty good to save themselves. So fair play to Gary O'Neill. They look destined for the drop a couple of times this season, but he's able to drag them safe, and well played, man. So no one expected it. So fair play to him. He's really done well.
Yeah, 100%. In terms of the relegation battle now, I think it's Leeds, and anyone Leeds or below are going to go down, to be honest. I think West Ham are above are safe now.
I think West Ham Probably. They got that game in hand. That helps them. I think they need another win. I think they do need another win just to make sure, but I think they're playing well enough that they'll probably get it from somewhere. They seem to up their game especially, so they should be all right. But I agree. Leeds down. I think that's probably where the real action is at.
Right now, what's your prediction?
I was looking at those games, and I think Everton, man. I think Southampton, Everton, and Leeds.
You're going Southampton, Everton and Leeds.
Yeah, I reckon Forest and Leicester save themselves.
I got a feeling Leicester are going to save themselves because they're starting to perform a bit at the moment. Forest as well, like their home form might keep them up. I mean, the thing is with Everton, right? It looked as though this stage last season they were going to go down as well, and they found something right at the end of the season, but albeit that was Richarlison. So who is going to, take on that mantle and really, grab them by the scruff of the necks and really save them? I can't see Calvert-Lewin doing it. Gordon's gone. Richarlison's gone. Who's going to do it?
McNeil's just not up to it.
You know what I mean? Who's going to do it?
I don't know. Who's up front? Demarai Gray?
If they go down, Everton, they're going to be going into their last season at Goodison Park in the Championship for the first time that they've ever been relegated.
And you never know in the Championship. As much as if they keep Dyche, they could get back up, but you never know because sometimes you go down there and it's hard to get back up.
Imagine the first year of their new stadium in the Championship. This brand new stadium on the river in Liverpool. It's unbelievable. It would
be embarrassment.
Yeah, it is an embarrassment. They have the best stadium in the Championship, that's for sure. But let's move on to the last game of the week, which was Tottenham against Manchester United. Finished 2-2. Sim went for 2-2, so he gets a big fat 5-pointer. I went for 3-1 to Manchester United, and how wrong was I? To be honest, at half-time, I wasn't looking too bad. But look, this was definitely a game of two halves as we've seen all season. First half, Man United were deservedly in the lead at half-time, and Spurs showed some fight and came back in that second half.
Yeah, and I think the game was pretty much how I thought it would go. I thought that if we put this United defence under pressure, they were definitely a team that they could be opened up. I think their defence was pretty much weak, and we could have easily created chances, and that's what we did. But I also felt like our defence, under pressure on Man United's attack, could easily be opened up and easily concede charges. That's exactly what happened, and it ended up being the 2-2 draw I thought it would be. It was a game in two halves. United could have been more than 2 goals up in the first half. We could have scored more than 2 goals in the second half. It was a really entertaining, open game. Spurs fought back and showed character to get that draw and showed a reaction to Sunday. But in terms of it being good enough for our league position, doesn't really help us too much. But at least we showed fight to not give up and try and put on a performance for the fans. So that's what I'm happy about.
Yeah, absolutely. Which moves us on to the star men. Sim went for Kelechi Iheanacho. Could have done something on the day, but unfortunately went off injured early. And I went for Alexander Isak, who didn't even start, but he came on the last 15 minutes and probably had the assist of the season, maybe even the assist of the century, to be honest. It was that good. If you haven't seen it, I definitely advise you to go and watch that Alexander Isak assist. It was absolutely brilliant. So I get 3 points for that one. So we finish off on 297 to 318 going into the last 5 games
points
of the season. Look, still a lot of points to play for. I think did you make up points on me this week?
No, I think you put 2 above us, 2 above me.
You.
Yeah, you made 2 points.
All right, well, check out for tomorrow because the Predict the Prem for the weekend will be coming out. But thank you everyone for watching today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always,
come on you Spurs.